Now, one of the, if I'm going to go for sort of bass lines and stuff, there's a few different things I use. For stuff that, if you want really, really good sort of like kind of software bass and you're a Logic user, either the ESM or the ESP are probably both really good synths to use. The ESM, the monophonic one, which kind of like their 303 sort of emulation, has actually got a hell of a lot of bass on it. If you know, it's got a really good rounded sort of sound, and the controls are really easy to use on it as well, so you can get right in there and sort of really get the sound sort of exactly as you want it. So I'm probably going to write from this one and then maybe transfer it over on some hardware afterwards. So. That's like real basic, just kind of following the groove sort of thing. I mean, we might elaborate on it a little bit later, but I don't want to, again, I don't want to make it too busy, you know, because you need that kind of space, I think. Not quite happy with that note there. I'll drop that back down. Yeah, that's better. I'm just going to shrink this. If you make those notes kind of nice and short, it gives it a little bit more of a stabby sort of feel, a little bit more like a live bass. And then I'm just going to even off the velocities. You can get some really amazing, if I just solo that, you can get some really amazing sounds out of this, particularly the square on here, which is quite rough and raw, but what I tend to do is I'll whip the cutoff all the way down and then just open up the filter envelope on it. Particularly for the deep house kind of stuff, this is brilliant. It's a lot more kind of rounded sort of sound, a little bit of resonance, just to give you a kind of more so if we just pump that up. The other end. I tend to try and mix as I go and get the volumes as close to perfect as possible, obviously just to save time, and because it's a lot more easy, you know, it's a lot easier to do this than, you know, before when you used to record things like bands and whatever and you've got a whole mixing desk, just getting the music in there was hard enough, and so the mix down was a whole separate process. Now that computers have moved on so much, it's so easy to mix as you go. You know, generally it can be, the finished product can be there, you know, sort of for your mix down, can be there before you've even finished the track. I quite like that. We're feeling that. I'm just going to mute that off for the moment. I'm just going to go through some little bits of hardware. Obviously, the Nord is a favourite of mine, particularly for these kind of analog sort of sounds. It's a little bit fiddly to go through the presets, and the screen's so small on the old version. I don't know whether you can see, but I mean, literally all you've got is a load of numbers. A really good tip for anyone who's got hardware like this, or like the Moog as well, is if you go onto the websites, you can download the manuals, and if you keep the manuals on your studio computer as reference, it's really, you can generally then find, you know, I always come into, like say if I go into the Nord manual, I keep all my program banks on screen, and because you've got a search function on macOS, you can just do things like, say if you were looking for a bass sound, you can just type in the word bass, and then all of these here are anything that's in the program banks that have got the word bass in them. So you can flick through and instantly it'll give you the numbers or whatever. So it's not quite as good as having the hardware as a plugin, but it certainly makes finding sounds a lot quicker than having to leaf through a kind of paper manual and or just, you know, keep selecting numbers. There's so many sounds on here. I mean, you know, I'm not going to go flicking through them because literally we'll run out of tape. And then also you've got the manual mode, which kind of turns it into a kind of a big version of the ES1 or whatever. So I'm going to slip this into manual mode for now, which is that one. It appears that the last thing I was making on here was white noise. So again, you've got a brilliant filter section, brilliant envelope section. So we're just going to turn everything up to full. I like to start with a sort of a completely blank canvas. I'm going to just mix. Let's just turn this down. Get this so that it's all back in the middle. It's such a great sound when you're detuning this thing as well. Like quite often, a lot of the build-up noises and stuff that I used to use when I first started producing were just, you could get this sound and you could just kind of pitch it up and do all this kind of business. And then also you've got this great LFO on here that's so vicious that you can like all the you make some fantastic build-up noises with that, but we're going for something a little bit more sedate today, so going for a similar sort of sound to the one that we got. So I'm just gonna open the release a little bit to make it a little bit liver. Bring the cutoff down, a little bit of resonance, and then just open the envelope up on the filter. I mean, to the untrained ear, there's not a lot of difference. Even to my ear, there's not a lot of difference actually. But what you tend to find is these are kind of like, they give you a much more live kind of sound, and a much more, the sound itself is more exciting. It just seems to be a little bit more it seems to have a little bit more body and a little bit more presence, you know, because you know it's being created like there for you. So. It's just A, B. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to play those next to each other now and see which one kind of. Oh.
Yeah, the first one.
Second one's a bit quiet, I think. See, that one's got more body, but the first one. Let's kind of see if we can tweak them. Bit more res. So they're getting closer now. But I think this sounds a little bit hollow today, so I'm probably not going to go with the Nord. Yeah, the ESM's definitely moving more air, so we'll go with that for now. Again, I'm just going to copy these across. Now, if you're copying audio and you do the Alt-Shift thing, that makes the aliases. With MIDI, I don't bother, to be honest, because the data's so small, and I like to be able to just jump into a MIDI part immediately, whereas it's less likely that I'm going to have to jump into an individual audio part and edit it. It's probably just going to be a repeat of one that I've already used. Whereas with the MIDI parts, it's going to be a little bit more, you know, I might want to alter a single bass note or a single note, so I don't want that alteration to affect all the other ones. So I don't use those as aliases, I always do those as actual copies.